I think the University of Gastronomic Science is a very sort of forward-looking, and it has a very great vision to reconnect ourselves with food in a holistic way. And that is the vision of Schumacher College. Although our style is different, Schumacher College is more a community where all the students live together, and there's accommodation, so they sleep there, and they have breakfast, lunch, dinner together, they cook together, they garden together, and so it's a small community of 50 or 60 people, whereas your university here, where students go back to their apartments or accommodation. So that's slightly different, but the values and the vision of your university and Schumacher are very similar. Therefore, I think it is true to say we are a sister organization. So what I was saying, that there is an inner landscape and there is an outer landscape. So farming, social work, ecological activism, environmental work, all that work is to some extent external, making peace in the world and making peace with nature and looking after our environment. That is outer work. But that outer problems come from inner problems. So if your mind, if our minds are polluted and corrupted, then our environment is polluted and corrupted. So if our minds are full of greed, fear, anger, jealousy, all these sort of negative qualities, then we reflect these qualities in our activities outside. So we reflect that. So what I was saying is the spiritual dimension is the inner dimension, non-physical dimension. So if you are inside yourself at peace and calm and compassionate and kind and happy, then outside your action will also be calm, compassionate and happy. So inner and outer are two sides of the same coin, two aspects of one reality. So we need to do physical work outside and our metaphysical work or spiritual work inside. These two should go together. Well, also in your university, you can practice that because you are living with many cultures, many languages, many religions, many ages, and living in harmony with everybody will come when you are at peace within yourself. And so even at the University of Gastronomic Science, you can practice that inner and outer work. But of course, at Schumacher College, being a community and living in a community, that even more helpful, because then you not only you are studying together, but also you are living together, you are cooking together, you are gardening together, you are walking together, you are working together. So that gives you a bigger challenge, and you have to be more tolerant and more accepting other people as they are, rather than expecting them to be something different. So that makes a difference, but it doesn't matter. Even in your situation, you can still practice the spiritual work and the environmental or external work. I think food is fundamental because our body is sustained by food, our minds are sustained by food, our spirits are sustained by food. And so if your food is wholesome, fresh, organic, well prepared and healthy, then your mind, your spirit, your consciousness will be healthy. So, and also if your food is grown properly, without chemicals, without fertilizers, without pesticide, then your air will be clean and good, your soil will be good, and food is soil. Soil transformed into potatoes and bananas and oranges and apples and rice and wheat. And so if soil is contaminated, your food is contaminated. So food is absolutely fundamental in our living. And therefore, if we get food right, everything else will be right. I would like to see your university at the moment is rather intellectual and academic. It would be good to include a little bit more of some practical and some physical and handiwork. So if you can bring some courses there where people learn to make something with their hands, and it could be crafts, it could be something, and also some more cultural artistic activities such as singing, dancing, writing poetry, having poetry readings, studying poetry. Yeah. So science is good. We need science, but without this imaginative experiential work, science is not enough. Science is more analytical and more academic and more rational. Our minds, we have two brains, the southern hemisphere, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So the left hemisphere is the hemisphere of reason and rationality, and the right hemisphere of brain is intuition. So I would like to see in your university education, at your university curriculum, bringing the right hemisphere of the brain, where intuition, imagination, spirituality, these are also promoted. So when you have courses, those things should be included. So that means arts, crafts, poetry, music, dancing, gardening, cooking, some craft work, handiwork. Yeah. If you can include some, I would say even if you have 1 hour every day doing something practical, physical every day, from 9 to 10 or whatever time, and then have your intellectual classes, that'll be much balanced. So always you have to think about how we balance the brain, how we use the whole brain, not only the half brain. If you are using just intellectual, academic, scientific part, then you're using half of the brain. The other half is neglected. So using the whole brain and balancing the brain will be a very good thing. I mean, I just spoke this morning about my past in my childhood. So I grew up as a Jain monk. And so Jain monk is a kind of life which is based in non-violence. A supreme principle of Jain monks is to practice non-violence. So non-violence to yourself, non-violence to other people, and non-violence to nature. Non-violence all around. Non-violence of thought, non-violence of speech, and non-violence of action. And so even in your mind, your thinking, you need to avoid negativity. Meaning that no negative thoughts, no thoughts about hatred, fear, condemnation, thinking this person is bad, that person is bad, that person is wrong, that thing is wrong, that thing is wrong, always wrong, wrong, wrong. So you are contaminating and polluting your mind and your negative, and they are violent thoughts because you are being violent in your mind to somebody. So it's better always to have your own understanding. If everybody say, who am I, how I am living, and how can I overcome my shortcomings, like my anger, my fear, my jealousy, my lack of trust. If I have any shortcomings in myself, how can I improve myself? That's more important for Jain tradition and practice of non-violence than so always telling that this person is bad, he should behave like this or she should behave like that. Because we cannot control other people. Other people are other people. They have to look after themselves. They have to take control of their life themselves. And so that practice of non-violence was the supreme principle, non-violence of mind, thought, speech, action, everything, to yourself, to other people, and to nature. And then I continued that kind of life, even though I left monkhood. But in a Gandhian ashram or Gandhian community, Mahatma Gandhi was also a great believer and apostle of non-violence. And therefore in the Gandhian ashram also I practiced non-violence. And so always I tried to look good in everything, because there is a place which is beyond right and wrong, and that is a good place. Like Rumi, Sufi poet Rumi said, there's a field beyond right and wrong. I will meet you there. So we get caught in this right and wrong. And what is right and wrong is only a perception. There's no fixed right and wrong. In one particular culture, something could be right and other thing could be wrong. In a different culture, the same thing can change. And therefore, having this fixed idea of right and wrong, and also thinking that what I think is right and what other person thinks is wrong. I'm right and other person is wrong. This kind of way is a kind of violent way. It's a very subtle violence. It's a subtle violence. Then also in Gandhian non-violence, we also say social non-violence and political non-violence. So social non-violence is where you don't exploit other people. You are not exploiting workers or women or children or people who are weak, lower class or lower caste. So you practice respect and reverence and dignity of every human being. So social non-violence, also very important. Then a political non-violence. So imprisonment and a punishment, police, military, all those kind of things are sort of violent institutions. So you have to practice non-violence at a political level. So social non-violence, political non-violence are kind of more Gandhian contribution. Generally, Jain tradition and many other religious traditions limit non-violence to personal. I will be non-violent. But social institutions like corporations, like big business, big industry, big factories, and big governments, they become violent because the very nature of their business and their corporations. So we are living in a kind of violent economic system. So non-violent economy as well as important as non-violent personal life. So non-violence permeates throughout our life, social, economic, political, personal. So that's my past training of non-violence. Mahatma Gandhi used the technique of non-violence to change the system. He was faced with colonialism and imperialism. And, and he said that colonialism and imperialism, British Raj, is a violent system. You are exploiting people and nature. And so he stood up to oppose the system. And he said that the best way to oppose is non-cooperation. So you don't cooperate with the British. You don't cooperate. So if you say, I'm not going to drink Coca-Cola, then you are withdrawing your support from Coca-Cola or from McDonald's or from big supermarkets or big business. So when you withdraw your support individually, that's a personal non-violence you are practicing on a social, political level to change the system. But that's not enough. You have to be the change you want to see in the world, but you also need to organize the change, communicate the change. So you say, I'm not drinking Coca-Cola, but I will write about the evils of drinking Coca-Cola, from health point of view, from environment point of view, or McDonald's, or buying things which are not necessary, or for example, chemical farming, putting fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides in the soil. That's a wrong system, because it's a violence to nature. So I'm not going to participate in such agriculture, but also I will promote organic farming. So you build a movement, non-violent struggle, non-violent resistance. You create resistance, and that's a kind of activism. But it is not criticizing people, because we are all participating in the same system. People are also caught. So you are not criticizing people, you are criticizing system. You say that even the people who were British, Mahatma Gandhi said, "You are my friends." Martin Luther King said to white people in America, "You are my friends, but I don't like this racial discrimination. And so I'm going to change the system, but without hurting you, without hurting any white people as personally. But I don't want to be hurt myself. And therefore I'm not going to participate in my own exploitation and in my own subjugation." And so standing up for your principles and boycotting and resisting a system which is based on violence is non-violent action. But you don't do it out of hatred. You do it out of love for the white people. You do, that's what Martin Luther King did. You do out of love for the British people. That's what Mahatma Gandhi did. You act out of love for even white people in South Africa, which is Nelson Mandela did. So all these good examples show that you can resist a bad system, and you can struggle to create a new, more just, more fair system without engaging in violence. So despair makes you kind of impotent.
Yes.
Takes your energy away. Despair dissipates energy. So if you want to have energy to act, then you need to be optimistic and hopeful. And so activism requires optimism. If you are a pessimist, you cannot be an activist. You can be a journalist or something like that, but you cannot be an activist. If you want to change the system, and all the great examples of great activists, like Václav Havel in Czech Republic, he was an optimist, and he said, we can change the system and we can bring an end to this kind of Soviet empire or something. And they worked, and in Hungary and Poland and all the people who they worked. And in the end, the Berlin Wall came down and Eastern Europe was liberated and communism came down. That was all out of hope of people like Václav Havel and many others. In the same way, all the great movements like the women's liberation movement, if you take all the like Simone de Beauvoir, who wrote Second Sex, she was very optimist. She was not in despair. And Germaine Greer, people who are doing, and the women who fought for the rights to vote, the suffragette. In Germany, there was a woman called Petra Kelly. I don't know if you've heard of her. She was the founder of the Die Grünen movement, the party, and she was one of the first to become member of Bundestag. And she was not in despair, she was in hope. And then in the end, towards the end of her life, she became a bit despair. And then she had her end of her life was not very positive. But otherwise, she was full of hope. So to be an activist, you have to be an optimist. Pessimist cannot be an activist, and therefore despair is not the answer. And we don't know what the result of our action will be, but we do our best. And up to the last breath of our life, we act every day, like we have to bathe our body every day, we have to feed our body every day, we have to walk and do exercise every day. In the same way, we do some service and activism for the environment every day and for other people every day. You don't say that because I get dirty, therefore I'm in despair, I'm not going to wash. And why to wash? Every day I have to wash and I still get dirty again. You don't despair. You say, okay, I'll get dirty, I'll wash my body. I'll get hungry, I'll eat. In the same way, society needs my help and environment needs my help. So activism is not a destination. Activism is a journey. It's a process. You engage in this journey for the whole of your life. Diversity you talked about is very important. We have to celebrate diversity. But quite often people start creating uniformity and a kind of monoculture. So food, the variety and diversity of food is disappearing because all, traditionally there were thousands of varieties of rice, thousands of varieties of apples, thousands of varieties of everything. And now we are reducing less and less, and just a monocrop, monoculture, cash crop for the market, and they should look good, but they are not so tasty, are not so nutritious. So diversity of food is disappearing, and we are creating monoculture and a kind of sort of mass production of few plants. So this uniformity is not right. So diversity of food and diversity of cultures, cultural diversity also very important, because we are all turning everybody into kind of westernized, sort of educated class, where everybody is taught same thing, whether you are in France or Germany or Italy or England or America. Similar, everybody's learning science, everybody's learning mathematics, everybody's learning same sort of education. So we are turning the entire humanity into a very monocultural, one kind of, and then everybody wears the same thing, mass-produced jeans or something, and everybody so eats same food, wears same clothes, and the houses everywhere now, high-rise building. You can be in New York or Chicago or San Francisco or Tokyo or anywhere. The high-rise building look the same, and the shops the same. You can go anywhere. You get McDonald's, you can get Coca-Cola anywhere. So all the local varieties and diversity is disappearing in food. Why we are, I mean, when you are in Italy, you want to eat Italian traditional food. And when you want to Germany, you want to eat German food. You want to go to China, you want to Chinese food. You want to Japan, you want to Japanese food. You want to go to India, you want Indian food. There should be diversity of foods, diversity of cultures, diversity of languages. Diversity should be embraced and celebrated. But at the moment, we are creating uniformity everywhere and mass scale to make money. It's a profit motive, only making money. So I am a great believer in cultural diversity, linguistic diversity, religious diversity, truth diversity, biodiversity, dress diversity, furniture diversity, architectural diversity. Everything must come from the local genius. And everybody should have their imagination to build something which is to suit their culture, their tradition, their taste. Why have to impose one taste for everybody, 7 billion people? Linguistic diversity, the same thing. If everybody speaks English, that would be boring. So all the diversity is important, and food especially. I was saying that an artist is not a special kind of person, but every person is a special kind of artist. So what I would like to say is that all of us have imagination. And if we use our imagination and live imaginatively, then everything we do becomes work of art. Our cooking becomes work of art, our gardening becomes work of art, our building houses become work of art. So art should not be a profession of a small elite who become great famous celebrity artists. And art should not be kind of almost imprisoned in the art galleries and the museums. Every home should be an art gallery. Every office, and workplace should be an art museum. And every work we do should be work of art or craft, artisan. So my idea of art is that everybody has imagination. Everybody should be able to use their imagination and produce work of art. And when you produce work of art, you are happy. You feel joy in doing something. If you are doing same thing, copying what other people have told you, there is no fulfillment, there is no satisfaction, there is no creation. And without creativity, human life is not joyful, not enough. And so living like an artist and being an artist, and everything we do, doing with an imaginative quality, that will make people happy and joyful. Art of life is the supreme art, and all the other arts follow from the art of living. And the art of living has to come from our imagination and our own creativity, from our own heart, and not just follow the rules of a company or a government or business or university or whatever it is. When you become just following the rules, that's not art. Art breaks the rules. I mean, when you are studying at a university, and as I said before, if you are able to cultivate your many-sided life and many skills, and you are not at a university only to sort of attend the classes and have a teacher telling you everything, and you getting notes and making notes and just learning. That's a limited part of learning. Useful, but not enough. You have to engage in your experience. And that engagement in experience comes from going beyond kind of class. And so this is why I said you need to develop a curriculum, more holistic curriculum, where intellectual studies are balanced and complemented and compensated with, I mean, you do some field work, don't you? That's a good thing. Going out in community, going out in the villages, and engaging with other people. So you have to live full life, even at the student life. You have to live full life. It's not just that you are learning now and then live later. You have to live full life now. And learning is not just at the university. Learning is a lifelong process. And I always say that I'm an 83-year-old student. I'm not, one is never too old to learn. And so the students are teachers and teachers are students. So we are all learning, and therefore even when you are a student, you need to develop a full life in which you are cooking, you are gardening, you are engaging with community, you are doing some artistic work, and you are doing some intellectual work, all that together, a more holistic. I feel that we are living in a good time, and we are living in a time when there are many opportunities to put things right and do good things. If everything was proper and perfect and good, then we have no challenge. So if things are needs improving and needs doing something, then it's a challenge. And there's a hard challenge, a difficult challenge. So you have to sharpen your language, your communication, your activism, everything to be more effective. And therefore it's a challenging time, and therefore it's a difficult time, and therefore it's a good time. Easy time is not good time. Good time is when I was walking around the world without money, in the snow, in the rain, in the deserts, in the mountains. That was a good time. If I just sit in a comfortable living room and have a cup of tea and have a glass of wine and no challenge, that's not the great time. The great time is when you are in struggle, in doing something, we are building a house, or being out in the snow, walking or doing something. So I am not advocating a kind of lazy, comfortable, easy life for everybody. I'm saying the life should be an active life. An active life is a life of struggle, and when a mother is giving birth to a baby, that is when a woman becomes a mother. And giving birth to a baby is very hard. It's a life and death experience. You have to go through labor pain. But if without the labor pain, there's no motherhood, there's no child in the world. So we are going through a pain of birth at this moment to give birth to a new society, a new vision, a new values, a new kind. And so we have to go through this pain. But mother doesn't say, oh, I don't want to go through this pain, but I want to have a baby. She has to go through the pain. And so it's a good time. We don't have to be despair. You don't have to be in denial. You don't have to be in any kind of negative mind. You say, time is difficult, time is hard, we have a challenge, we have a struggle, we have to change, we have to give birth to a new society, a new worldview, a new way of life. And that is good. And then, and it's also, once a mother has given birth to a child, it's not the final birth. I mean, mothers will give a second birth and a third birth. And so, of course, we don't have too many children, but that's only a metaphor. I'm giving birth as a metaphor. But one must not look for easy, comfortable, inactive lives that have no problem, no challenges, no difficulties, no hardship, and everything is perfect and smooth. That's a boring life. There's a difference between convenience and comfort. Comfort is a state of mind. Comfort comes from, it's a kind of more spiritual word, joy and comfort, the spiritual state of mind. But a convenience is when you push the button and light goes. You don't have to light the fire. Heating comes on, or something happens more convenient. So we have exchanged our comfort with convenience. So people are living convenient life and they want to hang on to it. But the new generation of young people will not be the same, because they are realizing that this system of life, this so-called convenient, easy life based on fossil fuel and electricity and computers and technology and all that, is not creative, not imaginative, not comfortable, not good for planet, not good for people. So I think your generation and next generation, young boys and girls of 15, 16, 17, 18, they are waking up. So I think in next 10, 15, 20 years, when the next generation comes up in leadership position and doing economics and politics and social work, there'll be a different world. If you are in the system and if you can be effective, so from inside out, also possible. But if you are not in the system, or you don't like the system, or you don't feel good in the system, then from outside coming in. I don't think there's any one exclusive right way. Each person has to decide for themselves where they feel that they can be effective. And each person has to choose for themselves whether you feel comfortable to work from inside. If you don't feel comfortable from inside changing, then I would say get out and do something outside. But if you are in the system, if you are in a university system or business or somewhere, and you think that you can bring some ecological perspective, social justice perspective, a spiritual dimension, and so on, then I would not condemn anybody. I would encourage everybody to do their best wherever they are and make a change. Wherever you are, in whatever your conditions are, in whatever way you think best. Because I'm not here to dictate everybody what is the best way. And nobody can really tell what is the best way. Each and every one of us have to decide. And that freedom is necessary. Otherwise, it becomes a monolithic system. And I don't want to impose a monolithic system on anybody. I want to have people exercising their freedom to act. Only thing we need to have this new consciousness that we have to live non-violently and harmoniously and sustainably and regeneratively and cyclically, so that our environment is safe and our humanity is happy and we are happy. Nature moves in cycle of time, cycle of life, and a cyclical economy, circular economy. Whereas our industrial system takes from nature, uses its consumerism, and then throw it away in the oceans or in the landfills. So we create lots of waste and a lot of pollution in that process. That's not nature's way. The economy of nature is circular. So from soil comes tree, and from tree comes leaves, and then leaves in the autumn fall and become soil again. And so everything goes back in the soil. Even the wood becomes soil again, and the new wood comes out, and the old wood becomes soil again. So it's a kind of whatever you take from the soil goes back into the soil. Everything is biodegradable and organic, whereas the industrial system, we produce plastic, steel, all the kind of things we produce, fossil fuel, we take from nature and we create greenhouse gases, we create fume, we create exhaust, we create pollution of air, pollution of water, pollution of soil. That is not circular economy. And so the economy of nature is our teacher. We have to learn from nature and see how nature works, because humans are not outside nature. So we are creating a system which is outside nature. Humans are as much nature. We are nature. Nature is not only trees and mountains and oceans and animals and birds and insects. Humans are also nature. So if we have this unity of life, idea of unity of life, and bring an end to the old story of separation and create a new story of interdependence and interconnectedness, then that will be the circular economy.